Hello and welcome back with me, fLukedMC. We are here in Snapshot 22W12A. In this video, I have taken all of the blocks you can see behind me and I have made a series of houses. For our first house, we are over in a desert biome because we are going to be focusing on the mud blocks. And I've got a pretty nice location here. I've planned it out a bit, give us room to build. We have a normal vanilla desert village down here. So the first thing we're going to need to do before we even get to start using these blocks is to plan the layout of our build. So let me just get a nice bright block like blue wool and then I can plan out the shape. So outside of looking like something from IKEA, I have now got a framework for this build. All I've done is replace the outline I had with the mud bricks as the trim on the sides. We've just replaced the walls with birchwood and the floors with sandstone. These are by no means the final blocks I'm going to be using. This is just to give an idea to me and to you of the general shape and the general outline and layout of this entire build. It may seem a bit like I'm rushing through things, but that's because I'm trying to get the early design out of the way so that we can focus on the implementation of the new blocks into the build. So just by adding this little detailing to the trim here on the sides, the pack mud looks like it's more in line with the build. Now before I can get to work on these walls, I need to add in some windows, and for that I'm just going to add in some temporary holes at the moment and fill them in with the mud block just to indicate that they're windows, although these actually look pretty good just on their own as windows. And then we have this large flat wall here, and I'm thinking perhaps this is going to be the best spot to have a staircase running up the back. So there we go. Now that we have this staircase on the back, I'm thinking we're probably just going to have a window somewhere around there. Now that we have the trim sorted out with the mud bricks and the packed mud, and we have base for the windows sorted out, it's time to detail and texture this wall. So over here I've been practicing and I've come up with I think two good designs that we could use on the walls. We've got this with the birch logs and the birch wood, and this is cut sandstone, regular sandstone and smooth sandstone. For the time being I'm going to implement this one on the left. If it doesn't work out I will try this one, but if I end up going with this and you think I've made a mistake, just shout to me in the comments below and that I should have picked this one. I think this looks alright. Naturally we are going to add some more detailing around here, but I am just going to try out this pattern as well to see if I prefer it. Yeah, this looks much better than the other one, so we're going to go with the second pattern, the one I should have gone with in the first place. So if you went in the comments and told me I was an idiot, you were right, I am an idiot. It was definitely the right idea to go for the sandstone and not the birchwood. This has mixed in rather well because the mud bricks now stand out. They identify it as a trim. Now you can see I've replaced these floors here with stone. That is not permanent, that's just so that I can differentiate where the floor is from the walls. But we're not working on the floor just yet. We are in fact going to work on these gaps here where basically it's going to be like the ledge, the trim, sort of railing type thing. Naturally I could just do this and call it a day. And to be fair, that doesn't look too bad, but I think we can do something better than that. This is the design I'm going to go for, changing these top blocks to be stairs and having slabs all the way around. And I'm going to continue this design down here. And there we go. That keeps to that blocky feeling that we're going for with this. And then, yeah, I think this works quite well. Now, the next thing I do need to get sorted is this floor because the bare stone just does not work with the color palette we're going for. So now that this is all converted to birchwood, we need to texture it. So we have the planks as the base block and we just do things like this to kind of texture it. And obviously we can have it going in different directions as well. So something like this. So it doesn't necessarily need to be all over the place, just something to kind of give it a little bit more variety. I'm not going to be doing the interior, and that's for two reasons. Firstly, I'm not very good at them, and secondly, I don't want to. So I have an idea for a detail that's going to go at the top here, and that is to kind of give the impression that the entire house is being supported by these wooden logs. And immediately I really like how this is going. See, everyone talks about vertical slabs, but what I want are horizontal fences. Imagine what we could do with horizontal fences. That would be so good. You know that it's me making a build if I can't ignore spruce wood. I just can't do it. Spruce wood is too good. Look, that's just an instant doorway there, and it just fits. Spruce wood fits with anything. Now, the next thing I want to work on are these windows. The first thing I'm going to do is just push the mud blocks back a bit so that it can give a bit of depth to it, sort of like that. And actually, that's a really nice effect. Could be something as simple as that, just using sandstone stairs gives the effect that we need. The reason we'd have an overhang is in the case of rain, but the thing is, it doesn't rain at all. Sometimes it is the simplest solutions to a problem that turn out to be the best. I couldn't help myself. I had to add some kind of spruce detailing, so I've just added signs on top of the stairs to, I don't know, I think it adds a nice detail. So I would say this build is at a point where it's practically complete. This looks pretty nice, and I can imagine a village full of these type of design. This isn't a house that's designed to go on its own, but there is one last thing that I'm going to do, and that is to add all sort of kind of dead or decaying vegetation around. Vegetation and the desert don't necessarily go well together in Minecraft builds, but now that we have mangrove roots, I think we're about to see a whole new level to desert vegetation. Because just look at this. All I have done is do the same usual kind of vines that I do on other builds with the roots, but it works. This place looks amazing. This looks good. I like this. But that's only the first house done. We have 2 more to go. For our next house, I am going to be building a house in a swamp. Probably something on stilts, but using the new mangrove blocks. But as you can see, I've got a pretty good location set out. We're not going to be on land for this. I want it to be right in the middle of the marsh itself. And because you've already seen it with the first house, I'm just going to speed through getting the basic structure and the basic blocks done. And so we've got the basic structure. I haven't filled in the walls, I haven't filled in the floor, and that's because quite a lot of my time was spent on working out this roof design and see what works best. This is the main building, and this here is just basically like a balcony overhang type thing, but this is where the entrance is going to go. You can already see I've started using the mangrove logs as the support beams. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to grab the mangrove planks, and I'm just going to fill in these bits of wall here because I'm pretty sure this is where it's going to go, and look at that already. That looks good. I will admit, when I initially saw the mangrove planks and how red they were, I suspected that they were going to be too oversaturated, too bright to work in any build, but they blend in very well. Naturally, the swamp is very kind of muddy, it's dirty, it's very kind of brown and dark, but somehow the red works. I've got some of these stripped mangrove logs so that I can come along and just do the same thing as before, just stuff like that to add some texturing to it. So as well as expanding that texturing across all of the walls, I've also gone and laid out the windows just like in the last build. So whilst we've got that going there, I'm just going to focus on this balcony for a moment because we need to get a good block in here. And you know what? Spruce could work very well just expanding this out like this. Now the next thing to tackle is this roof, to try and find a good block that will complement all of these. It won't be spruce, unfortunately, and I don't think it'll be the red either because we've already used that on the walls. So that is now the roof converted, and I've also just adjusted the front here, kind of leave less of a flat stairwell there. Now with the last build I showed you a lot about texturing and doing this here. Now there are ways that you can texture a roof by changing up the blocks, but there is a second method of texturing that I'm going to do here, and that's basically mess. Just adding lots of mess around just like this. There's no plan here, I am just putting random blocks down and seeing how it goes, and anything that looks too out of the ordinary I'm getting rid of. But you can see immediately how that has improved the roof from looking like just a bunch of slabs to being a bit more of a variety, a bit more colourful, a bit more characterful. Some may say this is a bit too much, but I don't think so. I think this is pretty good for what we've got with the roof at the moment. So whilst I was getting the roof sorted, I also just lowered the block of mangrove logs here and extended these fences to be 3 blocks tall, and now we're going to add a railing around it. But I want to do more than just come along and do this, because that to me has always seemed boring. Now doing that is a little bit more interesting, but there is also something else we can do. I've got these mud brick walls. If we put them here, these two on the left and the right get lowered, whereas this one in the middle stays the same. This is such a simple trick to create a really good looking railing. You can see we are actually nearly done with this project. There's just a few more little details to do, in particular these windows. Let me just remove the mud for a moment and see how it looks with that behind it. I think the black works better, but as you can see, you're looking through the windows. I haven't even added the floor in here. Once again, not working on interiors. I will add the floor in though, because otherwise that's going to annoy me, looking through there, not seeing the floor. So I'm wondering what the best way is to approach these windows. I like these at the bottom. It's what to do for the top. Detailing windows is actually one of the hardest things I do, so I try and avoid it wherever possible. My builds will often have very simple windows, they'll be very flat windows, because I don't necessarily know how to add good overhangs. things. Maybe it should be something as simple as this, but I think the spruce is a bit too light, so we should be using dark oak here. So slight variation on the design from before, but I think it just works very well. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As simple as that. If you find a design that works, why shouldn't you use it everywhere? But I've tried to change it up with these here. So we've got a kind of very shallow roof design, and then we've got this with these going all the way down. And I'm not sure which I prefer. So once again, calling in the comments, whichever one I pick, if you think I should have picked the other one, call me out on it, call me an idiot. But I'm going to go with this one on the right. I like these going down more than I like these. Yeah, I think I made the right choice going with that design for those there. Had to make some tweaks on the front and the back, considering we had the roof in the way, but I think these windows have turned out all right. I think they look good. See, those trapdoors there, they would have made it for a pretty good window, and in fact we could probably sneak one in just up there like that, concealed in the wood. And we're just going to put a simple door like that. Now, just before I move on to vegetation and adding the last few details, there is one more detail that needs to come into here, and that is lighting. Unlike the desert, which was very well lit, the swamp is not very well lit. This is a dark and dingy area, and we're going to need some lights around. There we go. These lanterns now provide quite a lot of light to this area. But since we're not actually doing the interior, I'm just going to put fog lights behind the window, keep everything well lit. But naturally, there is one thing left to do, and that is vegetation. So we'll use a mix of both this time. We'll have some dead and some living, and we'll be able to use the water since the leaves are now waterloggable. So I've gone and added quite a lot of vegetation to this. You can see there's a few vines kind of wrapping around the side of it. I've mixed in some normal jungle leaves in with the new mangrove leaves, and a few dead vines as well, kind of drooping off the side. This build should give you quite an indication of how we can use the new mangrove blocks for the walls. So we've had the desert build, we've had the swamp build, but there is in fact one more build remaining, and it probably isn't what you'd expect. Just before we continue, as you can see, I have reconstructed the original mangrove announcement. I have converted it into the new color of mangrove, which is a definite improvement. But anyway, that's a nice quick look at this house here, and I only just noticed that they used a mud block for the window. I never spotted that in the original picture. Go back and have a look and you'll see that that block on the side is in fact a mud block. But now that this one's done, we can move on with the next build. We are here in the nether. I'm in the middle of a lava lake, and that's because in my build hacks video, which you can see in the information card in the top right hand corner of the screen, or if you're on mobile it will be in the description below, I noticed how the red mangrove wood looked very good as a sort of kind of evil red block. It looked better than the crimson wood, and so mixing that with things like deep slate or blackstone could work very well for like an evil base. And where better to build an evil base than in the nether in the middle of a lava lake. So just like before, I'm gonna blitz through and quickly do the outline so that we can just skip past all of that and get straight to the good stuff. So this is a bit bigger than the other two houses. The thing is, when you say, right, let's build an evil castle, an evil person's house, an evil whatever in the nether, and then you just put me in the middle of an open lava lake, my natural reaction is pyramid. So that's why we've got this tiered effect. So here we have our block palette. At the back here we have the red mangrove wood, all the blocks we could need here, and in front I've gone for blackstone, and I've got a block of netherite because this is creative mode and you're not going to stop me. I think the first thing to do is to just change out this lime green wool for one of these blackstone blocks and try and get a feel for what the base color is going to be. So I've just replaced all the lime wool. We've got bricks up here and I've just used mud on the bottom. You can also see I've got the night vision effect to make this easier to see, and as you can see here, I've given myself about 2 weeks worth of night vision in real time because I think that might just be enough for this build. I think before we start texturing, we need to figure out where this mangrove wood is going to go and the actual effect it's going to have. Maybe if we had it going up here like this, I know we are in fact changing the design by doing that, but then lava can kind of flow through the middle. And then what we'll do is we'll just take these stairs, we can kind of put them on the edge there. But this red looks looks alright, I think. So now it's time to work on detailing the blackstone bricks. And I've already gone in and just started adding in these stair blocks here just to see how that looks, and I think it looks alright. I think even just as simple as having these here, these look pretty good. Whereas the last two builds were built kind of primarily on randomness and texturing, this is going to be based much more in symmetry, I feel like. But just because this build is based in symmetry doesn't mean we can't try some things out as well and add some texturing. On the left, I've added polished blackstone, and on the right, I've added regular blackstone, just to kind of see which one makes for a better texturing block, and it's going to be the polished blackstone. So now I've textured these blocks and added a bit of randomness, a bit of texturing to the entire thing, and I've added the detailing with the chisel polished blackstone. But I feel like we need more mangrove. That's what is going to pull this build together. Just keep adding more mangrove. Wonder what happens if we put up that on there. That looks kind of cool. I think that looks alright. I wonder, maybe we just need a sign below it. There we go. Yeah, I think that looks alright. Maybe we just do something like this as well. That flat texture of before, like this stuff here, has already been improved just by adding the mangrove wood in. Let's see what we can do on these bits here. Maybe just something like this. You can even set it back a block as well. Now I just need to copy this pattern over to all of this. I have just had an idea. I finished doing all this stuff with the mangrove and kind of setting this back in here and thinking, looks a bit dark. And then I remembered frog lights. So I'm thinking, would it be better to have the frog lights kind of in here like that, or in there? I think they look better in here. So we now have the frog lights in, and just from here they look pretty good as part of this build. Now that the entire build is lit up, I think it's time to remove the night vision effect and see how things are. So here we are without the night vision, and I have to say those frog lights really do stand out in the nether, much more than the lava. Mangrove just seems to be a good complementing color block for nether based builds. And now thinking about doing something like this, just replacing these signs with blocks of netherite. We're getting to that stage now where we're working on very much the finer details of this. I don't think there's much more that we can add. It can get to a point sometimes with a build where you're over detailing it. I don't think there's much more that I can add here. This is just the ground here, so I'm not going to do anything with that either. I may just come in and add the odd block of gilded blackstone around. There we go, the odd block of gilded blackstone there, just to add a little bit of color to the randomness of the black. In fact, I've just had an idea of what I can build in the middle here. So I've just expanded this plinth up a step, and you may be wondering the idea I've had. Well, it has something to do with Sculk sensors, Sculk catalysts, Sculk veins, Sculk shriekers, everything to do with all this. You see, I've been focusing on mangrove, and I've been focusing on mud blocks, both in this and the build hacks video. I have not done anything with Sculk. So what if over in the nether this was a sort of shrine to Sculk and the Warden? So here you can see just like this. Oh, this is making a really strange noise. Okay, I did not think that the Warden could spawn in the nether. That kind of freaked me out a little bit there. Well, we're in creative mode, so it's not like he can hurt me. This was not supposed to happen. I may just have to wait for him to go away here. I kind of thought the Warden... I've not done anything with the Warden yet, so I didn't know his spawning conditions. I thought if I was placing these blocks down, nothing would happen, until he crawled out of the top of the tower. So it turns out that this kind of sacrificial pit, this kind of shrine to the Warden, has worked. I have summoned the Warden in the nether accidentally. There we go, off he goes. So I don't think I should really mess with that, because I already know that that worked. It's also a pretty decent design I've got going here as well. And we're also at a stage now where if I start to tamper with this, if I start to tinker with the design, it's just going to spawn another Warden. So I think that's where we're going to leave this build. The mangrove works really well on the side as a sort of accent block. And we've even managed to implement the Sculk on top and inadvertently managed to summon the Warden. And so that is all 3 builds complete. We have the desert house, we have the swamp house, and we have a nether house. That is where we're going to leave this episode. And if you have enjoyed everything that's gone on today, if it has inspired you, make sure that you are liking and subscribing the video so that more people can see it, and so you can stick around and see what else I come up with in the next video.